I get the point that 55% may come from foster care. I don't know the percentage, but I've done a lot of work as a lawyer with people who have not had a good experience in childhood, let's just leave it that way, who are very much weakened by the experience of childhood. And those people also are often a good percentage of offenders in future life. The chance of uh, offending and the recidivism is high. And, the idea that there's silos, you mentioned it earlier with municipal, provincial, I think those distinctions are gone because I think if the city wants to know what could best be done in terms of housing or job opportunities, they need to know from the provincial government, child social development issues, concerns, statistics. I dug that one out myself about poverty, 21% in Moncton, 19%. I mean, I wouldn't have known that. I see all the BMWs flying around over the speed bumps. And I think, this is a rich city. I think people say, oh, Moncton's doing well. Look at the cranes. But that stat stands there. And a lot of them are, I imagine, people who either came from the foster care system or a bad system or have other issues that weren't treated. I know this isn't only in Moncton, but there's got to be other places who have done things, and specifically cities who have said, we're going to set aside certain number of job opportunities. You can't just walk out and get a pensionable job for life, but job opportunities for people just seems to be sensible. So in principle, I'd say yes.
Okay, going further back in terms of prevention, perhaps helping kids like the Boys and Girls Club, organizations like that are trying to keep kids on the rails to kind of get over that tween hump. Would you commit or consider funding more of those types of programs?
Well, I looked at the budget. There's a number, I suppose, that are getting, already funding, quite extensive funding. So I would never see a situation, given our wealth, that would be reduced. But why campaigns are important is you get out and you learn things. I learned that the East End Community Center, which has about 35 kids, it's where the pool was. That council didn't know there was a deep end. I don't know what happened there, but anyway, it's a lovely pool, and the basketball courts are full of local kids. And like I say, they're providing services there. They had an endowment annuity. It used to be the East End Boys and Girls Club.
Hmm.
Anyway, it exists now with the staff that are volunteers with no city funding. And I thought there's good things being done here. So the answer is yes, absolutely. It gets. I don't know how many people have told me, during the time of Claudette and Doug, the Boys and Girls Club took me off the street when I might have been doing something. And today I'm a cop or a lawyer or a broadcaster, I guess. Like that, obviously those things work.
Hmm. Okay. Something that wasn't asked, but is a hot topic. I'm surprised no one asked about this. But in terms of active transportation or public transportation, what are your thoughts on both of those?
Expansion, expansion, expansion. I was at Apex Industries for a tour, amazing jewel that we have, but not exactly easily accessible. Workers, almost 300 workers, some of them, not with cars. So the stories are like, oh, it takes me an hour and 40 minutes to get to work. And this person not living in, St. Anselm, right?
Hmm.
There. And then somebody said, well, I go to Champlain Mall, but it takes me 45 minutes. This is not a criticism of Kodiak Transpo because there are new buses. There are, good staff that work there. But I think you just have to face the fact we're 102,000 people with expanding roadworks and subdivisions and people. And you got to make the bus service go where the people are. And it means more money. And we have the money for transport. We do. So you said active. I think that includes there's some rumble out there that, oh, I got too many bike lanes, No, we don't have enough. And I've been around long enough. Remember that in the early days of bike lanes in places like Montreal, well, they just put up the fences like we have. Now, if you go to Montreal and you're a pedestrian, you stand in a bike lane, look out. Number two, there's ivy everywhere, and it's like people have, Montreal is a beautiful example of a bike active transportation city, and my daughter goes to school there, so I know the active transportation, much bigger city, fine. is so much better than we have here. So scale it, spend it, do it, get it done.
Who's going to pay for all of this?
Well, interesting you say that. The budget of the city of Moncton has grown to about 226 million, operating 89, 90 or so capital. So I say it's about a $300 million budget, and it's grown exponentially in the last 7 years from about 180. So that growth has come from tax assessments because, as you know, tax rates have gone down. 136 is the current rate. It's gone down. So, but nobody's that I know is experiencing a big tax cut in their yearly tax bills. And there's nobody I met who said, I'm not paying enough tax. I would like to have a more tax. Nobody says that anyway. But the other aspect that nobody inside baseball stuff, boring as heck, but whatever, we fund a lot of our capital budget out of our operating budget, and our reserves are plentiful. It's a bit like the water. It's good to have good reserves. But if reserves aren't for certain things at certain times, what are they for? They're not all emergency reserves. They're capital funding reserves. And if you're putting operating money into capital, you just have to look around at the permits and the cranes and know, and I'll be very blunt, really no credit at all to council. The apartment building craze has driven some government projects, of course, and we can look at federal governments. People say, "Oh, you're spending too much money." Well, look around at all the federal and provincial money around the Georges Dumont Hospital. Really great, but that's where our sources are. Very little of it is commercial development, which is sustainable and brings jobs. And the more jobs you have, and the more high-end commercial development you have, Apex is building a 38,000 square foot addition. Sorry, Apex, but that's taxed a lot more than the residential. It's big money. So the answer is how are you going to pay for it? The answer is we have the money. Where did we go from 180 to 226? Like, where did that go? I haven't looked at it, but I'd be looking at it.
Okay. Is there anything else that we haven't kind of covered that's top of mind for you?
Well, I'd like to contribute to the city and have people once again think about Moncton every day. This is something my kids laugh at me about, but I'll go to the Toronto airport or a bar in Paris and I'll just shout out, Moncton! And then sometimes somebody will come up, what? What did you say? Oh yeah, my uncle lived there during the war. And it still really intrigues me that on the national news or reports, they'll say Moncton. They don't have to say Moncton, New Brunswick.
Mm-hmm.
That's key. I want recognition for the city. I want it to punch above its weight again. And I want it to be, which I believe it to be, the best city to live in Atlantic Canada and the country. And I want to get up and say that every morning. And I believe it because Moncton is special. I grew up on the street like there were LeBlancs and Joneses and Steveses and a few Irish and a few Italians and all that. There was no ghettoization of, groups. Dieppe is a French community. They've said it. That's great. It's wonderful. A lot of Anglophones live there. That's fine. Riverview, I think, it's out of our federal riding now. They have unilingual street signs. That's their choice. That's cool too. But Moncton was and always will be, in my view, an accepting community of both linguistic groups, and it makes it terribly unique in the country, maybe the world. So let's use that. Let's promote that. Parler un peu de français, c'est pas une mauvaise chose. Eh? It's good for tête carrés like you and me, Eric, to try some French now and then, and vice versa.
Well, I am at day 1,556 on Duolingo, but I'm trying.
Good for you.
So would you say that's your legacy then? You would like for it to be your legacy to be able to stand up in a bar anywhere in the world and shout out Moncton and have someone
Didn't
respond?
say a bar. I think I said an airport.
And okay, somewhere in public.
No.
Yeah, maybe history. But is that what you want your legacy to be?
If you're talking about finite legacies, and we didn't talk about it, and it didn't come up, the need for a world-class convention center in our downtown would be something I would be very, very proud to be part of. The infrastructure gains on the waterfront, private and public, that make us embrace the waterfront, that also would be a goal of mine to, and as I said, Concerts at the Hill, and something also we didn't talk about. We have this lovely, I think you're a Trimble guy. Anyway,
Hmm.
Moncton High School that's close to refurbishment, ready for development to be a school again. What kind of school? Don't know. But you can't just dump people downtown in apartments and not have more than just bars and restaurants. You have to have lots of assets. And one of them would be, I think, a school in the downtown again, attached to one of the best auditoriums in the city that is actually ready to go. So those are a couple of things I would love to see in 4 to 6 to 8 or maybe 12 years.
Great. Well, Brian, thank you very much for your time today. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you, Eric. It's a pleasure.
It's Brian Murphy. Brian Murphy, a former mayor of Moncton, former councillor, and now also running again to be mayor of Moncton on this coming election on May 11th. I'm Eric Jingles, and thank you so much for watching.